Adventureland is a small 12-acre amusement park home to 26 rides and attractions about an hour east of Manhattan out on Long Island. You can find the park directly next to the Long Island airport, so there's always planes flying overhead. There are 3 roller coasters, all of which are family friendly, and there's tons to do for the kids. Adventureland originally got its start back in 1962 as an arcade and a restaurant, and they added mini golf and some very small attractions such as a carousel, and it really just grew from there. In the 70s, they imported a bunch of rides from Europe, and so that's why you'll see many of the attractions feel very carnival-like. They have a few attractions here that are kind of rare for the United States, so parts of this park even feel a little European. But in this review, we'll talk all about the park, tell you what you can expect should you go to make your first visit here. As I mentioned earlier, it's not too big, so if you're planning to visit, I don't even know if you need to clear out a whole day for this. We spent a couple hours here and we're pretty satisfied. But as you pull into Adventureland, you're greeted with a very long and skinny layout. The park is smushed between a gas station, a Wendy's, and a Target, so everything is very cramped. Like when you're in the station for Turbulence, one of the roller coasters, you can literally see the Target. That's how close we are. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. But all things considered, they've done a pretty good job at making the park feel lively. Lots of bright colors, cobblestone pathways, which that goes a long way. That sets it apart from feeling like a carnival, which is typically set out on a blacktop parking lot. And there's also landscaping. All this just adds to the atmosphere. So I would say this almost feels like a nice, permanent carnival. The mascot of Adventureland is Adventure Man, or whatever he's called. He's a superhero. You'll see him at various points throughout the park. And you also see just random statues of various characters and people and things just scattered about. Seemingly random, but it helps add to the atmosphere. So let's talk about some of those specific attractions. We'll start with the roller coasters. Our smallest is Rattlesnake. It's a Zero Tivoli. It goes around twice. Has some near misses with a couple trees, so that's kind of fun. Turbulence is a custom mock family spinning coaster, and this thing spins a lot. Every time you go on it, you'll spin like crazy. I was so surprised. It's super smooth, definitely a hidden gem. Yeah, I've done like Sierra Sidewinder a ton of times at Knott's. I thought this was a lot better. It replaced 2 other roller coasters that used to sit on this plot of land. One of them, fun fact, is still operating to this day. It's in Panama City Beach. It's called Hurricane. Interestingly enough, Adventureland actually has more defunct roller coasters than operating ones. At the moment, they have 3 roller coasters, and they have 6 that used to operate here. But then our last roller coaster is their newest. It is Fireball. It is an RES rollerball, actually the only one operating in the United States. Most of the time you can typically find these in Europe. There's one at Wiener Prater, Schwaben Park, there's one opening up soon at Connieland in Switzerland. These are cute rides. It's almost a take on an Intamin Zack spin, except you don't actually go upside down, you just rock back and forth. And Adventureland is also very aware that the name Turbulence and Fireball both are also names of iconic songs, and so they play segments from those songs as you're going up their corresponding lift hills. Clever, but if you're waiting in a long line for Fireball, hearing Pitbull come on over and over and over again does get a little repetitive. So let's talk about some other standout rides. They have this tiny log flume, like for kids, and that is so European of them. One clever detail I liked is that you have Adventure Man on the back of this flume. We saw that and we were like, oh, well, we just have to do this. And you know what? We got decently wet on it. We are definitely not the target demographic, though. They also have one of these spinny boat rides. You can find a ton of these at various Legoland parks. It reminds me of a water version of a whip where you're just swinging around the edges, gliding across the water. It's so fun, and what makes this one interesting is there is a waterfall directly underneath the walkway that you take to the entrance, and if you don't swing out all the way, then you get wet. So it can be a true water ride if you want it to be. Next up, there's a Frisbee. This one doesn't swing as high as some of the larger ones, so this is much more of a family attraction. You also find some antique cars. This will go past various animal statues and underneath an Eiffel Tower, because why not? Fun fact, the original antique cars at Adventureland were acquired from the 1964 New York World's Fair. They have since been updated, but I thought that was still a fun fact. Adventureland is home to one dark ride. It is called Mystery Mansion, and it uses the same technology as the dark rides at Wiener Prater in Austria. So this is another very European ride system. I can't even think of another US park that does this. The reason why they're popular at Wiener Prater is because they have a section of track that goes outside so the public can see what kind of ride this is. At Prater, that is important because everything is a pay-per-ride system. So you need that advertising hook for people to give you your money. At Adventureland, that's completely unnecessary, but it's still fun. In terms of theming, well, it's a bunch of classic jump scares, not super detailed. I felt like more than anything, they really just need some music to help with the atmosphere. Still worth doing, but don't get your hopes up. And then lastly, new for 2024, they added a Huss top spin called Moon Chaser. So they are continuing to invest in this park for the future, which is good to see. I can also appreciate how much management at Adventureland goes to acknowledge their history. At their train station, they had a whole section on a wall talking about how they got through the COVID-19 pandemic. If you go in their arcade, they have a full timeline of the park, bringing you up to modern day. I wish more parks did that, and they didn't stop there. They have their old mascot on display in one of the windows. There used to be a talking tree-like animatronic figure that they have on display near one of their eateries. We got real close to him when we were enjoying our lunch, which, by the way, the food here overall is pretty basic. Everyone I talked to who had been before recommended the pulled pork, so I got the pulled pork nachos, and other members of our group got the pulled pork mac and cheese, or just a traditional slice of pizza or burgers, and they all said it was solid, nothing too crazy. So overall, to wrap things up, Adventureland was fun. I enjoyed my time here, but you know, I personally don't feel like I need to go back for a while. I know this is not necessarily a thrill park. It is absolutely catered to the local market, and that's fine. I can see how this is a nice way for kids to work their way up to doing larger roller coasters at other locations. And if you think about it that way, and you just compare it to other smaller local parks such as Ride Playland or even Legoland New York, Adventureland has a lot going for it. They have a lot more attractions. And I definitely thought that Adventureland was better kept than Ride Playland, which needed a lot of TLC. So if you get the opportunity to head out to Adventureland, I think you'll enjoy yourself. I don't know if it's something that I'd put super high on the priority list, but if you live within a reasonable drive, I'd say it's worth checking out at some point. Just be aware of the prices. I thought it was a little strange that if you want to attend Adventureland, it is more expensive to go if you are under the age of 24. It's $50 to get in, which is kind of steep, to be honest, for what you get. If you are 25 or older, it is $10 less, $40. Those are the online prices you could get right now this very moment. So definitely interesting, but hey, I guess they gotta pay for those new rides somehow. I'd be curious to see if one day if they decide to expand into building a bit more thrilling rides. Like clearly they're landlocked, but could you ever imagine this park with like an RMC Raptor? I don't know if I could, because right now the most extreme ride is definitely Turbulence. I wonder if they'd be afraid of drawing in too many teens or adults, when clearly at its core Adventureland is a kid and family friendly park. I would assume so, but it is an interesting thought, and frankly an RMC Raptor is something that would get me back to Adventureland, I'll say that. But let me know down in the comments below if you've had the opportunity to visit Adventureland Long Island, if you agree with the points that I brought up. If you think there's anything I missed, be sure to post that down below. And of course, you can check out other park reviews available on this channel in a playlist organized in alphabetical order. We've reviewed places from all across the world, so go check those out. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.